Okay, so what did you get for your birthday, your month, and your 2018?
8 is the number of my birthday. 8.
Okay, so you're in an 8. Okay, Marcia,
I'm in the 3 year.
you're in a 3. Paula,
She's in
3. So Lily, Heika, 9. Me 9. Jen,
No, the guy behind you.
I'm in 6, but I'm in a 7.
you're in a 7 now. Tanisha,
Now I'm in a 4.
you're in a 4. Okay, perfect. So what does this mean? January 1st of every year, you're in another year. Okay? So instead of making your New Year's resolutions, you're going to calculate what year you're in. And you're going to go and say, oh, that's what this year brings.
Well, I need my year to hurry up and start.
Hurry up and start.
I post next year is a 5, so we need a.
Oh, you want this one to hurry up and end?
And
Oh, hell, me too. Trust me. Exactly. Because you're in a 4 year. So you're in a work year, you're in a building year. It's a hard year, it's a drudgery year. Okay? So you are in the same year you were born. That means is that you are starting things. It's a birth year, it's a year of beginnings.
Start school again?
Okay, so you started school again. So when you're in the year of your birth year, you're back to your origin story. And it's going to be a birth. That's why the other day I said the year that you were born is a birth year. But then when I listed 1973, 74, 75, I started with a number 1. Because a birth year is always a number 1. But the other way you could do it, I was born in 1973. That's a 1. 74 is a 2, etc. What year were you born?
82.
1982 is a 1 because he was born, but it's also an 8. So you could do it that 83 is a 9 year. He had to have an ending. Something had to end. Something had to die in 1983. Did you move?
Could be the divorce of my parents? That was
The divorce of your parents, that's a death, absolutely. Sometimes you just have to think. Okay, so there's 2 ways to do it. There's 2 ways to do it, but the divorce of his parents is related to a 2. A 2 is a union year. Maybe he moved in with one of his parents and his situation changed of to who he lives with. So it's related to a 2, a union, something like that. So there's 2 ways to do it. I personally find it easier to just start 1 to 9, 1 to 9, 1 to 9. Then, and this is what I wanted to pick on Paula. She's having some health issues. Health issues are often related to 4 and 6 years. Oftentimes. What year are you in?
Right now.
3. Okay, so it's a change. Okay? So, what we could do is, we can do your whole life. What year were you born?
89.
Okay, 89 to 2018, and circle every 3 years. And see if there is a theme. What you want to do is find a theme. Find your pineapple. Find the shell. Find the curvature. Find the symbol in your life, the theme, the pattern. There's got to be a theme. Usually, the first 9 years will already tell you the trauma. And all you're going to do is repeat that story over and over and over. And I'm talking about your personal life. Now, your business has its own birth of its own. So what do you think? If you birth a business on a 9, you think that might be a difficult business to get started up? It's starting on a death note. It's going to struggle. So this is how you can plan making certain decisions. So if a client comes to you and they're telling you that they're having their whole life fall apart, and they're in a 9-year, well, lo and behold, it's exactly what's supposed to happen. I am supposed to die because a 1 year happens to be my birth year, and of course next year has to be better. Doesn't mean that these debts are easy. There are certain things that you're very happy to let go of. I was very happy to let go of my first husband. But I was not happy that I only got my children half the time. So even though I made the decision, I still suffered in that decision. There's always loss. I was talking to my son the other day, and he says, I feel like I want to die. And I said, yeah, me too. And what I explained to him was that the pattern that we were all living was back from 2003 when I left their father. So what happened? We all got divorced. We all had to move. In our cells, the trauma of the divorce is stuck in our cells. And this year is reactivating that trauma. And it happens to be that I moved. His twin brother is going away. He's never been away from his twin. I get divorced, and all of his family is spread out. And I said to him, you are reliving the trauma from when you were 3 when I left your father. Because it was 15 years. It's around a 7. And a 7 is an inner year. It's a hard year. So this is how we can see why we awaken spiritual traumas or emotional traumas or mental traumas or physical illnesses. Where someone in this class once said that their parent or something was fine, but 7 years later, the diagnosis came back. The disease came back. It was reactivated. Your cells have memory. Just like every winter, the trees lose their leaves, and in the spring they come back. That is cellular memory. The trees don't look up to say, oh, it stopped snowing, now I could get my leaves back. It's in the memory of the tree. We have memory. And depending on the year that you are living, the memory of that trauma or that good time comes out. It resurfaces, it reawakens. All you are is a pattern. All you are is a spiral, just like a tree. That if you slice open, it shows its years. That's all you are. So you're just on schedule. We get to rewrite our schedule if we feel like it. It takes a lot of hard work. And most of us don't even know how, much less want to go through the trouble. And that's okay. But we are a story in a cycle, in a pattern, and that's where numerology helps. So let's say you have a new client starting today, and you quickly figure out that there are 2. 2 people like to be in partnership. They like to have a business together. They like to communicate. They're like, doves. They like to be partners. Penguins that are like mated for life. And this person just had a breakup. Or this person's best friend just died. Or this person's partner decided they didn't want to be in business with them anymore. To them, that is a death. It hits at the identity. And so now, you can go back into their story from 0 to 9 and find out when time did their best friend move away from school? When did their parents divorce? When did their little puppy die? Because if they are having a 2, or they're a 2, and they're in a year where they lost a companion, that is in their story. That lost a companion before. Or you could do the numerology before they get there, and you could see that they're in a 4-year, and you know that they're having a hard time. And it's usually related to the year of their birth. Does that make sense? I am in a 9-year, and I'm a 1. So I am having a really hard time because I'm dying to become a new person. If that person who comes into your hypothetical client today is a 2 and is in a 9-year, they're probably killing off or losing some partnership. So you can see the correlation. Does this make sense? We have a pattern. We have not just been thrown here without any rhyme or reason.
Are numbers like connected with each other?
Absolutely.
Because it makes sense if I start. I did it both ways. The 1 and then I started from an 8. I did it wrong yesterday. I'm not a 2, I'm an 8.
Okay, so you're like him. So you're a power person. You're a money person and a power person.
Never got no money to have.
Okay, but you're young. You're young. You haven't even started rewriting your childhood patterns.
Enjoy it while it
And
lasts.
Your tendency is of power. Your tendency is of personal power. That's a 3rd chakra. That's going to be someone who tries to at least make money at all costs. Your kairos is an 8. Your body just may be behind. That's okay. You were wrong, born into the wrong family. It's okay.
yeah, because when I do 1, when I start at 1, I'm a 6. When I start at 8 for this year, I'm a 4, which is correlated with the 4 at the top.
Okay, and then those 2 numbers make sense. A 6 or a 4 or 4 and an 8, they make sense. So Pythagoras discovered that there was 1 to 9. And that every number carries an energy. And every letter carries an energy. I'm not going to go through it. It's all over the internet. But basically, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. J, K, etc. 1, 2. And you can get the whole alphabet. So you could do the numerology of your name. For women who want to change their last name. If you have a good last name, don't take on your husband's loser number last name. No, you keep yours. Your name is power. But if he has a better last name, then you take it.
What's the name
Because
for the letters?
it's all under numerology. You could do numerology of your name, numerology of your house, numerology of everything. And so, for instance, Yahia, which I never changed, ever,
Yeah.
maybe I should have, no, is like a powerful name. The number, I don't remember the number, but the energy of it is a power number. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep this. Every time you write your name, my daughter's name is Sophia. The name Sophia means wisdom. I have never and will never call her Sophie. Sophie is a different energy than Sophia. She likes to be called Sophie. Her friends and her father call her Sophie. I have never and will never call her Sophie. You are Sophia. You are wisdom. The energy put out into the universe is of Sophia. Sophie, because of the numerology, changes the energy.
So it goes by first name and last name, or just?
There's first name, there's last name, there's consonants, there's just vowels, there's a gazillion.
Yeah, I just put first.
If you
I'm right there.
Google, you're going to see everything under the sun. My main thing for you
I'm back to 8.
Your story is here. This is your story. And guess what?
What are you?
It's a bunch of garbage. You were born with a waste paper basket on your head. What do you think is inside this waste paper basket?
Shit.
A bunch of shit. In particular,
Your shit.
not my shit.
Drag
All
on
the-
everyone
your
out
family.
their shit.
Everybody else's shit.
All of the judgments and the values that I was taught from 1 to 9. In here is my shit of judgments and values about my body, about the way I should treat my health, about gender, about money, about religion, about education. And this is how we walk around, with a big garbage bag of shit on our head. Ask me a question. Not a good question to ask. Ask me something else. Ask me something more specific. Something specific you want to know.
Oh, never mind.
Any of you.
How do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh my God. How do I see myself in 5 years? Well, unfortunately, because I'm a number 1, I'm going to answer from the number 1. I really would like to say dead, but I know that's not going to happen. So my number 1 will speak, and I'll probably have a thriving practice of some sort and be living somewhere else. I'm in the process of redesigning, so I'm not exactly sure yet how it's going to turn into, but there'll be some new version of my business, and I'll recreate myself in some way.
She actually looks huge.
I have a
She
good
looks
one.
like nothing more.
When you
It's a real
found
hat.
out you were pregnant, what was the feeling? What did you,
When I what?
when you found out you were pregnant?
With the boys or with my daughter?
both, with all 3.
None of them were expected. The boys, I thought it was an X, meaning no, and then I realized it was a plus, and I freaked the hell out. With my daughter, I wanted a girl, and the morning of, my husband and I were having a fight as to how long we were going to wait before we had the daughter. He wanted to wait 3 years, I wanted to wait 2, but I was already pregnant. So with that one, I was okay in the sense that I wanted her sooner than later. So when you ask me questions or I'm sharing, what am I speaking from?
Speaking from your
Your numbers.
7th year.
What am I speaking from? Where do we all speak from?
The unconscious.
So,
Okay, the subconscious, but
Our storyline.
okay, our story,
From your parents?
from your patterns, from the subconscious.
This is an experience. You're telling us your experience of what happened.
Yes, but my experience is tainted. My experience is colored by everything I have in this trash can. What threads did I use?
So the red thread.
I answered a question about 5 years. I spoke from what thread?
Oh, your past.
How did I answer the question?
From past experience.
Professionally. I answered her professionally. I could have answered her from my health. I could have answered her from my kids. I could have answered her from a marriage point of view.
Personal relationship.
I answered her professionally. I pulled out my professional thread
First.
and I answered her. Where did I answer you from?
personal.
Okay, but specifically,
Your feelings.
thread. That's what you need to listen to. If you don't listen to the thread, you're gonna miss it. You get caught up in the story. The thread. And I said something extremely important. What did I say?
You are planning, but you are not sure yet.
Yes, but I said something very important.
I thought everything you said was important, so.
Changing
No, what's the change? Gotta be your change.
other place.
What else? I said something that as a therapist, you should have been like, oh shit.
Oh, when you first started off,
Did you
you
start with a
Googled
one?
and said,
You said that you were a 9, that you were really, but you were gonna speak from a number 1. Is that what you're talking about?
You said you should be there, but
There
then
you go.
There you go.
That's what it is,
Okay.
number 9.
I spoke of death. First of all, as therapists, if a client indicates to you that they will harm themselves or another, you are responsible to ask them if they will harm themselves or another. I am not committing suicide. It's not happening. But when someone speaks of that, I said, well, I'm not going to be dead, although I wish. And then I jumped into profession. Meaning, in that statement, there is nothing for me but profession. I said a lot in that sentence. I didn't speak about my children, I didn't speak about a relationship. Even the move would be professional, would not be for any other reason. And if you listen to the client's shit, you listen to their thread, you know the whole story. So what thread must have been very important in my first 9 years?
In your first man,
In my childhood.
your dad, watching your dad be like the strong one, like with the.
Yeah, but based on what I said to Heike, what must be a value that's very important?
The Spanish? I don't know if I understand.
The way you were raised, like.
Professional success.
oh yeah, you got it from your father.
Professional success has to be, if I'm dying in every area of my life and the only response that I give her is for profession, that has to be a major thread that is important. Perhaps I can die in everything but professionally. I don't know. Sounds a bit true. You need to listen. Get out of the client's stories. Get out of the details. Listen to what they're saying. I want you to pick out one of these and tell us a story.
We had to start with
Because you sat in the right place.
work, of course. Just tell a story.
Tell a story from your childhood. Tell a story about anything related to work.
I'm currently on Indeed, trying to see what interests me.
You're on a what?
Indeed.
Oh, Indeed, the looking for a job. Okay.
To see what interests me. Oh, what, I'm supposed to continue?
It's
Okay, so you're currently on Indeed looking to see what interests you, but a story has a beginning, middle, and an end.
Yeah.
Have you discovered any interests? What are the key words you're using?
Interests, like something that I like to do. I don't know what I want to do. Like, I know I want to work with kids, but the more I look online and see what interests me or what's available. Kids is no longer an option. I don't wanna fail, and I feel like I'm about to fail.
Okay, what did you hear?
Like, you
That
have a
she,
fear
like,
of,
No, like she
Yeah.
pushes it away even though that's what she wants to do. Like, she already said that there's
Feel.
nothing there.
The fear in the belly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so therefore she just decides to push it away because she knows that maybe.
That's self-doubt.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's a theme of failure. So, what would you ask the client if she says, I'm afraid of failing?
What did you feel like before?
You can, but I would say to define failure. You cannot know where the client's starting if you don't know where they're starting. Because if not, you're thinking of your failure. So what is failure to you? Define failure, Tanisha.
or how about success? I'm sorry.
Or you could define the opposite, absolutely, either one.
Failure to me.
And it must be what? When you ask a client to define something, it must be what? I said this to you a lot in the other classroom.
How a 0 to the middle.
No, if you ask for a definition, it must be measurable. How many of you want to be rich? Raise your hand. Other than Marcia, we know that she doesn't want to be rich.
I don't know, because if I have problems now.
No, rich and happy.
Everyone wants to be rich. The way she and you and me and he define it is different. You cannot ask a client a question without them measuring it, defining it with measure. What is failure?
Not succeeding. Failure to me is me trying to push forward and don't accomplish whatever I set the goal to. If let's just say I found a job I'm interested in, failure would be not getting the job.
Okay. Is that realistic?
I'm sorry, I was right.
Is it realistic that failure is defined as not getting the job that she sought out to get? Then every single one in the world is a failure. Because at some point, someone hasn't gotten the job that they wanted. So if you're saying that failure is not getting the job that you wanted, you need to redefine your definition of failure. But because it's a thread in her bucket, we all have work as a thread in our bucket. We have to investigate with the client more about that. There is a story from 0 to 7, 0 to 9 about this. Think about it. Pick a thread, any thread. Tell us a story.
Body image. My old friend. All right, honestly, I know I work in clubs and body image is a big thing because the minute, like, we get weighed like once a month. They actually weigh us.
You are not serious.
No, I am so serious.
Oh my God,
And
no
then-
G for me.
So we get weighed, and that's what they do because a girl start, like, they want a certain look there, like, you can't have a belly, you can't have that stuff. So they line us up in the office, everybody gets in their line, we get on the scale, and if they don't like your weight, then they tell you, all right, lose this much weight, and then we're gonna weigh you again in 2 weeks to see if you've done it. So you get in the gym, you lose that weight, or you get taken off the good days at work. So for my body image, can't wait till I'm not there so I can just be like 300 pounds. That's like my future goals.
Is to gain the weight.
Yes. I'm tired of like always worrying about my weight and everything. Yeah, and that's been like that, and then I used to do like magazines and different stuff like that, so I've always had to like be aware of what I'm eating and make sure that the waist is tiny and that everything is this way or that way. So from personal body images to also work imposed body image stuff, I think it's a lot.